We all know this situation. Someone comes at you out of nowhere with a disrespectful comment or an unfair accusation that is aimed to get a reaction out of you. Most people react in one of three ways. A. They get defensive and immediately start justifying themselves. B. They snap back and match the aggression, which leads to things escalating. C. They freeze completely and spend the next hour replaying the moment in their head, wishing they'd said something different. But a truly calm person does none of these. He's doing something entirely different. And in this video, I'm going to show you 6 things you can apply immediately to become that kind of person and handle disrespect so well that the other person is the one left speechless. Let me start with something that happened to me just this morning. 1. Nothing to hide. I was on my morning walk when I took a small shortcut through a path next to some community gardens where an older woman was doing some gardening, and as I walked past, she called after me in a sharp, almost accusatory tone, "You're not allowed to walk here." I looked around. No sign, no fence blocking the path, no obvious reason why I shouldn't be walking there, so I asked her, "Why is that?" In a genuinely curious tone, because I actually wanted to know. She gave me an angry explanation about the surface of the path. "This one here is gravel, the one up there is paved. You can clearly see this path isn't meant for people to walk on." For me, this was absolutely not clear why I shouldn't walk on this path. We went back and forth a little, but she couldn't give me a logical reason why I shouldn't be walking here, and at the end, she just said, "Come on, move along." I wished her a nice day and continued my walk. Here's what I want you to take from that. I didn't get defensive, I didn't get angry, I didn't justify myself. I stayed completely calm and stood my ground, and I was able to do that for one simple reason. I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. There was no sign. There was no obvious rule I had broken. I had nothing to hide. And that's the key. When you know you have nothing to hide, when you're clear with yourself that you haven't done anything wrong, you don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to justify yourself. You don't need to get emotional. You can just stay calm and logical and let the facts speak for themselves. The situation would have been completely different if there had been a sign that I had consciously ignored. Then I would have known I was in the wrong, and that internal uncertainty would have shown, no matter how hard I tried to hide it. This nothing to hide mindset is not just a concept you can apply in certain situations. It actually goes deeper than that. It's a way of living. Being someone who is honest with himself, who keeps promises to himself, who doesn't cut corners when nobody is watching, who has absolutely nothing to hide. When that's genuinely who you are, the calm comes naturally. If you need help building this, you can check out the charisma code in our bio. And by the way, this story with the older women also perfectly illustrates point 3 of this list. But before we get there, let's talk about something that goes beyond one-on-one confrontations. 2. Emotional non-contagion. I remember sitting at my desk at my old job, deep into some task, when my manager walked into the office, holding his phone like it had personally offended him. He didn't look at anyone directly, he just said it out loud to the whole room. "The deadline isn't going to be met." Again, the communication in this place is honestly the worst I've ever seen. Then he walked out of the office and shut the door. Within seconds, you could feel the room change. People stopped talking. Someone next to me let out a quiet sigh and just stared at their screen. Another coworker suddenly looked twice as busy as she had 30 seconds earlier. Nobody said a word, but the whole office had gotten smaller and heavier. I just kept doing what I was doing. I finished the email I was writing, I didn't rush, and I didn't tense up. A minute later, a coworker leaned over and asked quietly, "You good?" I said, "Yeah, why?" She said, "You're the only one who didn't flinch." I want to be clear here. I wasn't ignoring what happened and I wasn't being cold about it. If it had actually been my mistake, my reaction would have been completely different. I would have gone and talked to him, taken responsibility, and tried to fix it. But this had nothing to do with me. It wasn't my deadline. I hadn't done anything wrong, so there was no reason for his mood to become my mood. And that's the whole skill. A room's energy is not something you have to absorb just because you're standing in it. You can notice it, understand it, even feel for the people affected by it, without letting it move into you and take over your own state. Most people treat emotions like something they can catch just by standing close to it. If someone near them is stressed or angry, they catch it automatically, like a cold. Calm people don't work that way. They notice the mood in the room the same way you'd notice the weather outside. It's real, it's there, but you don't have to let it change what's going on inside your own house. A whole room reacting to someone is one thing, but what happens when somebody puts that same energy directly on you, personally, face to face? 3. Don't catch their energy. I was at the gym in the middle of my workout when I just finished my set and had a rest before I would start my next set. In that break, I spotted a buddy of mine around 5 meters away and walked over to say hi. While I was gone for maybe 30 seconds, an older guy came up to my machine and just moved my towel off of it like it wasn't even there. I walked back over and said, "Hey, that's not okay. You can't just move my towel away. I'm using this machine." And instead of apologizing, he got provocative about it. "Well, you're just standing around talking the whole time anyway." I didn't match that tone at all. I explained it to him calmly and factually. I need rest between sets like anybody does. Whether I spend that time talking to someone or sitting on the machine doesn't change anything. It's the same break either way. He didn't really have a response to that. He just kind of shrugged and walked off. Let's break down what actually happened here. He came at me with an accusation, clearly trying to make me feel like I was in the wrong, or to get me to snap back and turn it into an argument. And it would have been easy to take the bait, get defensive, get annoyed, or match his tone. But instead, I just stayed exactly where I already was and explained the facts, calm and simple. That's what I want you to take away from this story. When someone hands you their energy, you don't have to accept the delivery. You can just stay in your own state and respond to what actually happened instead of the tone it was wrapped in. It's not in your control how somebody comes at you, but how you react to it always is. But what happens when the other person doesn't back down right away and just keeps pushing? 4. Outlast, don't outfight. Picture this. You're living with a roommate and one evening he comes into the kitchen visibly annoyed. You said you do the dishes 3 days ago. This apartment always looks like this because of you. Now, you could point out that he left his laundry in the machine for a week. You could bring up the time he forgot to pay his half of the internet bill. You have plenty of things you could throw back at him, and that's exactly the trap. The moment you fire back with your own list of complaints, you're no longer talking about dishes. You're now in a full argument about who is the worst roommate, and that conversation can run for hours without going anywhere. Instead, you just say, "You're right, I'll do them tonight." That's it. No list of counter complaints, no tone matching. He might still be annoyed for a second, maybe repeat himself slightly. "Well, it's been 3 days." But you just say, "Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry about that. I'll handle it tonight." Calm, short, nothing new to react to. Here's what happens next. An argument needs two people adding fuel to it to keep burning. Accusations, counter-accusations, tone escalating on both sides. The moment you stop adding your part of the fuel, the fire simply runs out of things to burn. Within a minute or two, he's not annoyed anymore because there's nothing left to push against. And now you can actually have a normal conversation about splitting chores better, which wouldn't have been possible while you were both still worked up. Staying calm and refusing to add fuel is exactly what clears the way to actually solve the real problem, instead of getting stuck in who's more right. Not fighting back is one kind of strength, but there's an even quieter kind. 5. The less you need to win, the more you win. There's a specific kind of person in every friend group or workplace who cannot let a disagreement end. Even when the topic is completely irrelevant, even when everyone has already moved on, he'll bring it back just to get one more word in. He needs to be the one who was right. And here's the strange part. The harder someone pushes to win a conversation, the weaker they actually look while doing it. Imagine you're in a discussion with a coworker about the best way to handle a project. You make your point. He makes his. You could keep pushing, bring up one more argument, get the final say, but instead you just say, "I see it differently, but let's just go with your approach for this one." And you mean it. No sarcasm, no hidden dig. People notice this immediately, even if they can't explain why. Someone who needs to win every exchange is telling everyone in the room that his sense of self depends on being right. Someone who can let a disagreement go without needing the last word is telling everyone the opposite. That his sense of self doesn't depend on anyone's opinion of him at all. And that's exactly why it works. The less something threatens you, the calmer you can stay around it. And the calmer you stay, the more in control you look, without ever having to prove anything. You don't need to win every exchange to be respected. In fact, the moment you stop needing to win is usually the exact moment people start seeing you as the one who actually does. Letting go of a disagreement is one thing, but what if someone says something that's really meant to get under your skin? 6. The power of the pause. One day, I was getting dinner with a few friends in a restaurant and one of them made a comment about me that was clearly meant to get a laugh at my expense, said with a smirk, right in front of everyone at the table. The whole point of a comment like that is to get an instant reaction, but instead, I did something different. And you can do exactly the same the next time someone throws a disrespectful comment at you. I didn't say anything, not in an awkward way. I just took a second and looked at him, completely calm, before I said anything at all. And in that pause, I could see his smirk drop. I could feel how unsure he suddenly became. Then, without me saying a single word, he added, "I mean, I was just joking, obviously." Nobody had accused him of anything. He backpedaled entirely on his own, just from a few seconds of silence. That's the power of the pause. Most people think a fast comeback is what makes you look strong, but it's actually the opposite. A fast response shows the comment landed and hit something. A pause shows nothing landed at all. Silence, held calmly for even 2 or 3 seconds, makes the other person's comment hang in the air with nothing behind it, and that discomfort is entirely theirs to sit in, not yours. That silence does more work than any comeback ever could. Let's quickly recap the 6 points. First, know that you have nothing to hide, so you never have to justify yourself. Second, don't let a room's mood become your mood, even when everyone around you is tensing up. Third, don't catch someone's energy when they aim it straight at you and respond to the facts instead of their tone. Fourth, outlast people instead of trying to outfight them, so the argument runs out of fuel on its own. Fifth, let go of the need to win every exchange, since that's what actually makes you look in control. And sixth, use the pause instead of rushing to react, so the silence does the work for you. None of these require you to become someone cold or distant. They just require you to stop reacting on autopilot and start choosing your response on purpose. And if you're curious how calm and charismatic you actually come across to other people right now, you can take our charisma score test. It's completely free, takes less than 5 minutes, and gives you your exact charisma score. The link is in our bio.